Hello, so I'm Josh, as you just heard, and I'm an ocean physicist. Now, I know a few of you are trying to figure out what that is and why does someone talk about ocean physics who's nowhere near the coast. Basically, the short spin line that you give to people who you want to grant money from is that ocean physics is about pursuing the grand understanding of the world's oceans and how they fit into the global Earth system. So I've been doing ocean sciences and thereabouts for about 10 years. Despite this, my dad still says that I'm just a fisherman. This is even more impressive considering what my brother does. So my brother's a trainee accountant. A normal day for him would be that he might go over to Mrs. Stroggins around the corner and he'll say, okay, so I've looked at your accounts, it says you've got 2,927. I'd be cheeky if you got 2,926. So that's basically his job. Counting buttons, counting limbs, things like that. But mine is the career to make fun of. So that's basically where we're at. So I said that I do ocean physics, or physical oceanography if you want the proper title. There's other areas of ocean sciences. You've got ocean chemistry, which is basically smelly stuff. You've got geological oceanography, which is rocky stuff. Then you've got marine biology, which is basically sticky, smelly stuff. The latter of which, marine biology, you've got a few things that you can do as a career with that. You know, you can be a fisherman. You can work as a dive operator, or you can do tours. So do a PhD in marine biology, everyone. Great career opportunities. But a joke, I mean, I did my undergrad was partly marine biology, so I can't completely blame it. But as my friend Duncan says, there's only one science and it's physics. So I talked before about the fact that I'm a physical oceanographer. So basically my PhD looked at ocean Earth observation. So we're looking at basically what effect how light travels in the ocean. So how I like to think of it is, why and when can't we see submarines? So that sounds interesting. I say that because basically my PhD was funded by the UK military. So it's split between UK and France. In the UK it was by a group called the DSTL, who are based in Portland Down, and in France it was a group called the DGA, who is basically the same sort of thing. If you've not heard of them, they're basically military science organisations. In the DSTL, they're basically, I like to think of it as if you imagine where Q works in James Bond, it's that sort of place, or if the sort of people you see on the news in yellow coats who like to look into the latest Russian political venture. So that's the DSTL. So the reason that I was doing a PhD split between two countries is because of something called the Lancaster House Treaties, which is a treaty that was signed down south, but named after a northern town. It's the closest you get to southerners coming up north, I guess. So basically what they did as part of this treaty is that they said that we're going to share certain things. So the French said, you know, we will give you an aircraft carrier. That's my best French accent. And then they said, the UK said, well, we'll give you Josh. So, I mean, there might be a few other things, but I don't think they're really, those are the main things, really. So it's up to you to kind of argue between yourselves, but who got the better offer. I mean, I don't think it's much of an argument, but... so I said that I finished my PhD, somehow. Now, the thing that I found most stressful was not when I had run up, when I handed my thesis in. I thought, okay, it took a while, but I handed it in. It was after my Viva. So, my Viva, I got my correction. So the Viva was on for 6 hours, which is longer than I would have liked it to be. 6 hours, and you get corrections after a Viva. They basically say how you were wrong in several different ways, which is really awe-inspiring. So, my external examiner, who's the person who's supposed to be really harsh to you, they basically said, okay, Josh, you got a few things, you need to change your colour bar. It's like, I can do that, it's easy. Your title, you need a capital there, okay, sorry. And just add this little quote in here because it's one of my papers. That sort of thing. Now, my internal examiner, this is the person who's supposed to be on my side, who's there kind of to stop my external from taking me. He gave me 13 pages of corrections. Now, this was less corrections on my thesis, more than it was tearing my very essence, peeling the band-aid off my soul, and really reinvigorating my really doubtfulness of myself. It was terrible. It was basically, they didn't agree with most of what was in my thesis. That's the short of it. But I got through that and kind of moved on gradually. So what can you say about doing a PhD with the DSDL? So the DSDL is a secretive organisation. They do things that you can't talk about. So I like to kind of live up to that when I can. But basically, I didn't know what I couldn't say. So I'd be going and I'd be kind of like, okay, so I'm doing this. What can I say about it? Nothing. And this even went to kind of when I had meetings with my supervisors who were working at the DSDL. So I might say, okay, I've worked on this great product. I'd like to talk about products, and it's A. So I've worked on A, and I think that A would be perfect for B. We're not going to talk about B. And okay, I deal with it. Secrets. How can I help you with A working with C? How do you know about C? So this kind of carried on. I'm still kind of like trying to figure out all the implications of my PhD, but some of the things that I know about. The best thing was when I went to conferences that worked with the DSL. So I got to see the other PhD students and what they were doing, what some of the scientists were doing. Now, what I was doing I thought was quite grand. It talked about the whole Earth and the oceans. 70% of the globe is ocean, so it's quite important. But I'd be stood there and I'd have a nice poster. Tends to have posters in science and other fields, and it basically had these colourful satellite images. Now, I didn't think about this when I gave it at general presentations, but when I was at these talks, I looked at them and I thought, okay, this is effectively grown-up paint by numbers. I've just put a series of colourful pictures on and I'm expecting people to believe that this is science. Now, I look around the room and I'd see cyber security, proper stuff, and then I'd be paint by numbers. And I'd be like, okay, materials. Now, materials are really interesting because they become bulletproof vests, tanks, things that save people's lives. That was a paint by numbers. Now the really amazing stuff that I probably can't really go into was the biologically inspired wizardry, as I like to call it. Now, I'm not saying that I did see this, but I'm not saying that I didn't. I may have seen a bulletproof super sheath, but don't tell anyone. So when I was doing a lot of, during my PhD, I did a lot of cruises. Now cruises are really exciting, you get to go to different places, but doing it for a job, or as much as kind of academia as a job, when you do it for a job, it means that it's difficult to do it at other times. So my wife would say kind of, it'd be exciting to go on a cruise, and I'd be like, another one. Now, you get a bit complacent when you go to places and you say, okay, I've been on a cruise to the Arctic, and you say, okay, I've seen the third polar bear of the day, and you see whales, and people are saying, oh, whales, and you think, they best not damage my equipment. So, you do begin to get a bit complacent. But the really amazing thing that you get on the polar research vessels is that, unlike some other vessels, they have no restriction on alcohol. So they basically say, if we can't see you with a satellite, if you can't call home, then no one's going to tell you what to do. So that's basically what the rules are. Now, it's one thing going on a UK vessel, it goes one step further if you go on a French vessel. So the French vessels, which I went on a couple of them, they have some things that you'd expect. So they say, okay, you've got 3 courses a day, okay, I can get behind that, healthy. With each of those 3 meals, which is breakfast, lunch and tea, just in case anyone needs correcting, you have 3 courses. Okay, that sounds a bit extravagant, but I can get behind that. Now, the really thing that was shocking, on a vessel where you've got very heavy, very expensive equipment, is that they insisted on having cheese and wine with every one of these courses. So you'd be there, you'd be dangling off the back of a boat, and you'd have someone who was holding on to you, who was kind of had a cigarette in their mouth, and had obviously just had 2 bottles of wine, and you had to trust them. So I really enjoyed it. It was great. So when I was getting towards the end of my PhD, I really didn't have a clue what I was going to do. I thought I wanted to go into research, because I enjoy research. It's basically just a DOS. But I thought I should probably do something that's a proper job, and there's not much research money going around. So I heard of something called Researchers in Schools, which you might have heard of. Basically, I now work as a secondary school teacher, and I'm also still carrying on my research. So I'm based at King's, and then I'm at a school in Oldham as well. Now, the thing that you do there, you learn how little has changed from when you were at high school. One of the amazing things that I didn't really see people who had PhDs when I was at high school, and so I shouldn't be too surprised, but something that I get at least 3 or 4 times a day is, what is a PhD? So I'll have a conversation like, okay sir, so I've heard you're a doctor. I'm like, yeah, I'm a doctor, you know. And then I'll be like, sir, can you do CPR? I'm like, actually, yes I can. So you're a medical doctor? I was like, no. Imagine that several times a day, and you begin to feel how little PhD actually stands for when it's not actually meaning that you're a medical doctor. But when you got around to that, you come to kind of the big things. Getting people to write their name on books. Now this is the thing that's really challenging. So generally, people know how to spell their own name. Generally. The big thing comes when you get them to spell your name. So normally, if I'm asking them to spell their name, I'll say, okay, I'll put it in big capitals on the front of it, about the same size as you've got the bread shed at the front. But despite this, most of them will ask, how do you spell your name? So I'll say it to one, I'll say, okay, it's Dr. Griffiths, it's D-R-G-R-I-F-F-I-T-H-S. They'll be like, fine. The next one along will say, completely oblivious to the fact I've just spelled it out, will say, okay, so how do you spell your name? I was like, okay, just ask them. Then they've just written it down, you can ask them, that'll be fine. I think, okay, what I've done there is I've instilled teamwork. I'm working to develop the next generation. The teaching adverts are true. So the real thing is that at the end of the day, you look back and you think maybe a few days later, if my head of department's listening, a day later, I'll go and mark the books. And I'll look at the names and you see, okay, Dr. Griffiths, Dr. Griffiths, Dr. Griffiths, Dr. Griffins, Dr. Griffiths, Dr. Griffiths. Now, it gets really worrying. So there's a point I think, I've spent my career up to this point, I've been having beers with polar bears, or that's what I think, and I've been walking around like I'm James Bond, and then I see it on the kid's book, I see Mr. Fisherman. It's Doctor.